All right, we're going to kick it off with the first match from Survivor Series 2016, that being the WWE Cruiserweight Championship match, which is a Raw versus SmackDown match, which is going to be Brian Kendrick bringing the Cruiserweight Championship and challenging against Kalisto. Kalisto basically got this match by helping out Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon on SmackDown by being in a match against Baron Corbin, and honestly hurting Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin being one of the main stars of SmackDown, a guy that had been named to the SmackDown brand. I guess you can say the cream of the crop match, the 5-on-5 Raw versus SmackDown male superstar match. Out of the middle of nowhere, Kalisto, when they split up him and Sin Cara, basically they did this to break up their tag team. Kalisto, had times meant something. They tried to make him a United States champion. He had a series of matches against Alberto Del Rio. He had a WrestleMania pre-sale match, or pre-show match, going up against Ryback. It never really panned out, because you would watch, Monday Night Raw, and, Kalisto would be the United States champion. And then you'd put him on SmackDown, and next thing you know, he's wrestling in a match with Sin Cara in a tag match, and he'd be taking the fall. So it was like, does this guy mean something and he's on the rise as a United States champion, or is he just a guy in a tag match that they don't really know what they're doing with? It was almost like the two different writing teams had no clue that what he was doing on the other show. One team didn't know that the guy didn't mean a damn, and the other show didn't know that this guy was a rising star. So having the different brands and having guys write for certain guys, I think that's going to help a lot of guys out. But this match, to me, honestly, is something that you have to be, reading the Observer or reading the dirt sheets to go down with. Of course, the major news is that WWE is going to be launching a new WWE Network show coming off of the Cruiserweight Classic. I think that was something that they knew was going to be a success, but I don't think they knew it was going to be as big a success as it was. Of course, because of that, at the end, Brian Kendrick, TJ Perkins, who won the tournament, was granted the Cruiserweight Championship. This was a surprise. They didn't announce this until the live taping of the last show. Originally, it was just going to be a trophy given to the winner. Then it immediately became the Cruiserweight Championship, and the Cruiserweight Championship was going to be defended on Monday Night Raw. A lot of people at that time didn't think it made a lot of sense, seeing how Daniel Bryan and the SmackDown announcer Ronaldo were the announcers of the Cruiserweight Classic, and you're immediately taking the Cruiserweights, putting them on Monday Night Raw. I know that you were saying at the time of the draft that because, Raw has 3 hours and SmackDown only has 2, that Monday Night Raw had to have a bigger roster of people to be able to fill out the entire show. So you were doing where they got 2 picks to SmackDown only getting 1, which was easily a slight to the SmackDown brand, which is sort of like, I brought up in the preview for Survivor Series, that the brand split right off the bat was slighting SmackDown, and because of the way SmackDown has been treated since 2011, it just makes it look like the show doesn't mean as much. But now with WWE Network, launching the new show, which I believe is called 205 Live, just for the Cruiserweights, which is going to be filmed live after SmackDown is filmed on the they're on the USA Network. Now the Cruiserweights are going to be moved from Monday Night Raw to SmackDown, which, honestly, I was talking about sliding SmackDown. Now I think you're just sliding the Cruiserweight division, because it's almost like you can tell that, Vince McMahon, this was sort of pushed on him as the Cruiserweight division, bringing it to Monday Night Raw, and immediately he's dumping it onto SmackDown now. On one hand, they're getting a new show, which is going to be good for the Cruiserweights to be able to show their own stuff. But I think, honestly, in my mind, I would bet that 205 is probably going to end up just being a show like Superstars, where these guys do have an hour to go out and wrestle, and it just becomes a wrestling match with no storylines, no championship matches, just guys going out there for an hour and having matches, which is fun if you want to watch fun wrestling. But at the end of the day, you're like, I just watched an hour of wrestling and nothing really meant anything. And I know that I am not somebody who's been following Lucha Underground in a long time, but from the reviews and the people that watch Lucha Underground, They say the Lucha Underground honestly just feels like the season that's going on right now is just a whole bunch of things happening with no real consequences and not really building up to anything. There's no pay-per-view. There's no championship matches. They have the big blow-off at the end of the season, and a lot of the matches have already been named, but nothing is happening week to week, and there's no real progression in any of the storylines or any of the characters or anything like that. And that's what I think that, 205 Live might just sort of get pushed to the back of the pack. Because of this, I honestly think that there's going to be a title change in the Kalisto versus Brian Kendrick match. I think that Kalisto will be able to beat Brian Kendrick. Kalisto will become the Cruiserweight champion. He'll be able to sort of bring the brand to SmackDown because the Cruiserweights will have to follow the championship, and then you don't really have to have some sort of storyline where the Cruiserweights walk out on Monday Night Raw. Or they just don't have to have this ghost change where they just all come over. You'll be able to get Ronaldo commentating over the matches, which I think he's going to be doing the commentating for 205 Live as well. And the more wrestling that he gets to commentate and the more WWE gets to use him is honestly going to be a plus. I know that you want to keep him on SmackDown because that's just where he is right now, but honestly, he needs to become the number one announcer. He's one of the best things that there is about SmackDown. I think that people might think it's kind of weird that Kendrick is dropping the championship so soon after winning it from TJ Perkins. But honestly, I think the way that you could tell that the TJ Perkins versus Brian Kendrick storyline changed so much with Brian Kendrick telling TJ Perkins that he had to let him beat him. And that didn't really come out in any of the weeks leading up to that match before Brian Kendrick beat TJ Perkins on the show that was in the Staples Center. There was no sort of build up to that. We've already seen Kendrick beat him, so why couldn't he beat him again? And why would he want him? Why would he want him just to lay down for him? So I guess Brian Kendrick is just sort of a transitional champion to get him over there. From there, you'll be able to see Kalisto maybe go up against Sin Cara in a singles match. You'll be able to see Kalisto go up against TJ Perkins. There's Swan. There's a lot of guys. Noam Dar just debuted on the SmackDown show in Scotland. So there's a lot of guys in there. They're going to get their time to shine on SmackDown, and then being able to feature these matches is going to be really fun. It goes back to, back in the day when the minis or the cruiserweights were on SmackDown before. So I think this is a good home for them. Plus them getting their own show will be fun for a little bit before I think WWE pulls the plug and gives up on him. So we'll have to see what this means, but picking Kalisto to beat Brian Kendrick in this match.